Hello, it's Miss Obermeyer, and today we are going to be learning how to use masking to create a double exposure. Okay, we're going to use a profile picture. The profile picture can be of yourself or of someone else. So first I'm going to open my profile picture from the computer. I'm going to be giving you all my pictures to practice with. So there we go. I'm going to open my profile picture. Okay, and I was home alone, so what I did was I went to a room that had a white wall, cleared everything out, and I set my phone up on a table and put it on a self timer. Okay, and then I pushed the button and waited 10 seconds and posed. All right, and I posed a bunch of times and looked at what things I didn't like and tried to fix them in the next one. Eventually I got one that I thought was acceptable. Okay, it's going to be so much better if you have a bright background, like a white background, but if it's a color, that's fine too. A lighter color is probably better, but or just something that contrasts with your hair, your skin tone, and your clothing. Okay, so keep it clean and simple. It's going to be so much harder if you have a busy background. Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is give this a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to go to our adjustment layers, which are down here, the half black, half white circle, and I'm going to go to curves. And I'm going to raise up the contrast just a little bit. This will help to, what we're going to be doing is called, we're going to be making a selection. So having a little bit more contrast between the background and you or the subject is going to be best. All right, so I've raised the contrast a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to I have to go back to the layer that has my picture on it. Okay. Next, I'm going to go over to the toolbar and I'm going to find the Magic Wand tool and click on that. The Magic Wand tool is a selection tool and it's going to allow me to select everything that is the same color. So in this case, I'm going to be selecting the background. By raising the contrast again, it's going to make it easier. The way I raise the contrast is going to make it easier to make that selection. Okay, so I'm going to look up here at my options for this Magic Wand tool. Okay, and in Photopea, although replace gives you a new selection, what we are going to choose is unite. So we're going to choose unite because we're going to be selecting something and then we're going to be adding to that selection. So a selection is going to kind of draw an edge or not a circle, but draw a shape around a certain section of your photo. In this case, what I want to do is I'm going to draw a shape. I want a selection that goes right around me and the background. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the background. And if you look closely, you can see that it did make a selection. It certainly isn't a perfect selection. Okay. It selected kind of a weird shape around here. But since I am adding, I can unite or add to the selection. I'm going to go ahead and click on that little part up there. I'm going to click over here to add this part. Click here to add more over there. And over here, we've got some issues too. Now I'm going to look super close to see how I did. Okay, I'm going to use the little hand tool to move this around. So when I'm looking here, it looks pretty good. It looks like the dotted line went pretty close to the edge. There might be a few places that I need to clean up though. To clean it up, I can go to the lasso tool. And what I'm going to be doing is adding to that selection because here's the selection. I want to add a little bit more white. So again, I've got to make sure I'm on Unite. And I'm going to go over to my picture and draw with the mouse around the edge of my hair here. and circle the part that I want to bump in. Okay, and it bumps right in. Okay. I'll do the same thing here. Okay. Now, the selection I had was probably good enough, but some of you might have not quite as good of a selection. Again, I chose a white background that's going to make it super easy. I have dark hair, so again, that helps to make it contrast to that light background. Okay, so now I'm kind of moving around with my mouse. You can also move around with the hand tool. This hand tool lets you move it around as well. And it looks like the rest of the edges are pretty good. Okay, if I push Command and 0, that makes the picture fit the screen. Okay, so at this point I have the background selected. What I actually want though is I want me selected. I want there to be an outline around me, not around the background. So what I need to do then is go to the menu bar and go to Select. And I'm going to go to Select Inverse. Okay, so I've selected the inverse, the opposite. So now I am selected here. Okay, so next what I need to do is I'm going to be adding a mask. Okay, we used masks last semester a little bit. So I'm going to add, since I have a selection already though, when you have a selection and you add a mask, it's going to give you a mask that keeps the thing that you selected and gets rid of everything else. Okay, so it has masked out the background. All right, so you can see, over here on the mask, the background is all black, so it's hiding the background. Okay, and remember if we used a paintbrush, I could bring the background back, but at this point, I don't want to do that. All right. So the next step is to find a picture that's going to go over the top that you're going to blend with your picture. Okay. And so I am going to go to File, Open, and I've selected a bunch of pictures to try out here. Now I had taken a picture of, oddly enough, it's simply some manila paper that I crumpled up. I think it was packaging paper actually that I got over break, and thought it was an interesting texture. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. I'm going to try this out. All right, well, I'm going to go to my Move tool, and I'm going to click and drag my picture over to the tab and bring it over to my new picture. Now this is actually a screenshot of my picture that I had put this on Instagram. So I didn't have the original, so I'm going to use this screenshot of my picture from Instagram. Okay, so I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform, because the picture is too small. I am going to hold the Shift key once I get the transform tool to make this bigger to keep it proportional. To be honest, since this particular picture is not, it's an abstract anyways, it's just texture, you could probably stretch it and it's not going to make a difference. If you have something that has more of a real picture in it, then you might want to make sure you keep it proportional. Okay, so now that I have it the right size, I really like the way this line lines up with my arm. That's kind of cool. I'm going to push the check mark. Okay. All right, now over here on our layers palette, what I'm going to do is bring down the opacity so I can kind of see where everything is lining up. Okay, so I can move this around if I want to. Okay, I kind of like the way this goes around my eye. I think this is less important, that it lines up perfectly. So this almost looks like an eye socket. I like the way this almost lines up with the front of my hair, and this almost lines up with my ponytail holder. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good here. So I like the placement. I'm going to it's important to get it placed where you want it before we go on to the next step. Okay, now on the next step, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go down to our other picture, the picture of me that has the mask, and we are going to duplicate that. Okay, so in order to do that, okay, I'm going to go click on it and drag it down to the make a new layer, which is right here, the new layer icon, just to the left of the trash can. Okay, now I have two of the pictures of me. What I did that for was so that I can borrow the mask. I'm going to click and drag that mask right up to the picture of the paper. I'm also going to just delete the main copy. I can drag it down to the garbage, or I can, you know, just push the delete button. All right, so now you notice that the mask that I had made for me, for my layer here, now is kind of masking out my silhouette. Okay, and that's pretty cool looking. Now the picture did not go all the way across, so what I'm going to do is use the crop tool. I'm going to crop this down to, you know, where that paper goes to. I might cut a little bit off the top too. Maybe a little, yeah, some off the side there too. Okay, and there we go. All right, now I'm going to add a background to this. All right, to do that, I'm going to add a blank background. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to go down to the layers palette to a new, you know, add a new layer. Okay, and there's a blank layer, and I want to make sure that layer is below, actually I'm going to put it below all my other pictures. Okay, so I've got the picture of the paper, I've got the picture of me, and I'm going to put it as the background. Okay, now I can add color. All right, so, and I can change that at any time. Here's my paint bucket tool, and if I go over here to the color picker, remember one of the things you can do with the color picker is choose a color that's already in the picture. So if I click here, push OK, it gives me one of the colors that's in the picture already. I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool and add that color. Okay. Now, if you know, like that, you could actually just kind of go with that picture. You have not quite blended the pictures together, but you're using the silhouette of yourself to kind of create this interesting, you know, textured silhouette as if it's a person made out of paper. Okay, but there are some, so this is a possibility. Okay, a couple things that I want to show you though. Number one, maybe I want to make the background a little fancier. Okay, a little, give it a little more interest or depth. So I'm going to go to the gradient tool instead. Okay, on the gradient tool, okay, if you remember, that gives you a gradient that fades from one color to another. So we can do the same kind of thing, okay, where we choose a color and then I'm going to go over, push OK, go over to the darker color, and I'm going to choose maybe, let's see, slightly darker brown there. Okay, I'm going to push OK. Now I could use a linear, I have to make sure I'm on my background layer. All right, I could use a linear gradient, do something like that. I can make it go either way. Okay, I can also try a radial gradient. A radial gradient is going to make it, ooh, that's kind of nice. Make it, and I can move the radial part of it into different places. Okay, I can also reverse that gradient. Okay, but I don't like that as much. Okay, so you can decide, you know, where you want the gradient to fall and what kind of gradient you would like. Okay, that's kind of nice. Again, I could play with this forever. Okay, I'm trying to get it just the right. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. All right, so here, that is another possibility. This is a project that, although I'm giving you some, you know, I'd like you to select the figure. I'd like you to mask the figure. I'd like you to duplicate the mask and put another picture over it and use that mask on that second layer as well. But from there you can, you know, really do some creative things, okay? It doesn't, you can decide what you want to do with it next. Okay, so again, this is a possibility to stop here if you like it. Another possibility is we're going to go up to, this is our layer that has now I can see that mask isn't too perfect, but for our purposes it's not too bad. Actually, what I could do here is go onto that mask and feather that. Okay. And feather that a little bit. It looks a little less harsh at least. There we go. If I feather it a little bit more, it kind of brings that white line down. Well, it's a little less, I mean. There we go. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. All right, now here is, that's kind of interesting. It's got the glow. All right, so the next thing I could do is go up to the paper layer, and I'm going to bring the opacity down. So that's a very simple way of blending the two pictures together, is to simply bring the opacity of the top layer down. Okay? Another way of doing the same thing is to select the mask. All right, I'm going to select the mask, use the brush tool. All right, I've got to make sure my brush tool is at 0% hardness. I want to make sure I have black on top on my color selector. Okay, so I'm going to switch to black. Okay, and I'm going to make the brush a little bigger using the bracket tools. Remember, the bracket tools are to the right of the letter P. All right, so the next thing I have to do is bring the opacity of the brush way down. I'm going to bring it down to somewhere around 20%. Okay, now, because I have the mask selected, I'm painting with a black brush, it's going to allow me to kind of start to bring back some parts of me. Okay, so you can see my face a little bit better. Now, if I am unhappy with that, I can go to the color picker, kind of refine this a little bit. Okay, so white is going to bring back the top layer, and black, if I bring my brush down with the bracket tool, there we go. And black is going to bring back, you know, my face layer, the layer underneath. Okay, so I'm going to make my brush a little bigger again. Bring some of my nose back and try to blend it together so that it looks somewhat natural. Okay, I'm gonna maybe try to bring some of my ponytail back here. Now this almost looks like a head wrap, so that's kind of cool. I could leave it like that, or I can also try to bring some of my hair back. The more I paint over it, the more of what, you know, what is underneath comes back. Kind of like it better. Okay. Now you have to be careful to stay away from the edges when you're painting with white. Okay, because if you paint with the white brush and you go over the edge, you're going to bring back some of the picture over the edge. Now that could, I'll show you in a second, that could be kind of cool as well. So again, there are many possibilities for creativity in this project and doing it your own way. All right. Okay, so I'm liking this, and I am going to go back in and take that feather off a little because I'm not loving how, there we go, that's a little bit better. Let's see, if I take it off completely, I don't even see it. Kind of like it a little. There we go, just have a little bit of white line around it. Okay, so there we go, that's another possibility. So I've brought back some of my face by using the masking tool. Okay, I mean, there are other possibilities. You can add, you can go to the top. We could add like a photo filter that can blend the colors together. Okay, so in this case, this is an orange filter, but if I double click on that color picker, I can make the filter any color I like. To, again, to kind of unify the colors a little bit. Oop. I don't know if I like that one. I'm going to go back in, try it again. I think I made the color a little bit too dark there. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. Okay, so those are all, you know, possible things that you can do. I kind of like the orange better now. Okay, so anyways, you can add to, you know, this as well. Yeah, so but that is, you can play around with it and see what you can do. Okay, so I'm going to save this file. Let's see, wrong one. File. Save as PSD. If you save it as a PSD, as long as your computer allows you to, that way you have saved all the layers and you can go back and change it. I'm going to drag it onto my desktop. But so preferably save it as a PSD for now. I wanted to add a little bit more to our tutorial because there was one other thing I forgot to show you that I would like to show you. All right, so I'm going to go back to the mask that has the paper layer on it, click on that mask, and I had mentioned before that you have to be careful when you're painting with white, okay, to make sure that you don't go over the edges because you're going to bring back the texture beyond the edge of the silhouette. Now what I'm going to do though, I'm going to actually do that, but I'm going to go onto my brush, make it a soft edge brush. I'm going to bring the opacity down to about 10. Okay. And then I'm going to go back onto my picture and bring back the texture, or bring back the background a little bit, to give the background a little more like realistic look to it. Okay. So I can kind of play with that and bring back the picture more in some places. And that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that because I haven't brought it back as strongly as the front. It's still, you know, the front still stands out as a separate kind of texture and something that's in the foreground. So I think that looks really good compared to just the colored background. All right, so one last thing here. I'm going to take that line. I keep going back and forth on that feathered line. Take that out. Okay, and let's see. I'm going to feather this one. I'm going to feather the edge of it though a little bit. Right now I'm on the mask. Let's see. Oh, too much. Okay, that's feathering it way too much. I'm going to bring it back. There we go. Now I'm going to go back to what it was. There we go. All right, feather it just a little bit. Okay. One other thing I wanted to show you was I did the same technique. I took a much longer time to do it though, and I added a lot of filters as well. I added some blue filters, you know, and played around with the background quite a bit. I actually did a little bit of cloning on this one too. We did cloning last semester just to make things look exactly the way I wanted them to. So I kind of did work on this one for a little bit longer than the first one. Okay, so another possibility. Okay, have fun. Bye.